Chapter 7. Body Augmentation. Adam stirred awake, his body feeling incredibly light, relaxed, and energized. A sense of ease washed over him, as though every ache and tension had melted away overnight. But before he could bask in the sensation, a pungent, foul smell assaulted his nose. His face contorted in disgust. What the hell is that? He thought, sitting up instinctively. The source of the smell became clear as he noticed patches of black, brown, and slimy mucus covering his skin. He grimaced, and as he moved to get up, he planted one palm on the ground. Without much thought, he pressed down, raising his entire body into a handstand with shocking ease. What the dash? Adam froze mid-movement, realizing how effortlessly he'd just performed a feat of calisthenics that should have been beyond him. His body balanced perfectly, his core steady, his breathing calm. Slowly, he lowered his legs back down, controlling the descent with an almost uncanny precision. Once his feet touched the ground, he pushed off his arm, launching himself into the air and landing smoothly. His body responded like a finely tuned machine. There was no time to process it further. The smell forced him into action. Adam darted toward the bathroom, his speed and control astonishing even to himself. The apartment was cluttered with books and boxes from the previous day, but he weaved through them effortlessly, his reflexes so sharp that he didn't come close to bumping into anything. Once in the bathroom, he yanked the shower handle and stepped in, letting the water wash away the grime. Streams of black and brown muck flowed down the drain, coming from every pore and orifice on his body. As the last of the filth disappeared, he grabbed a towel and wiped himself down before stepping in front of the mirror. The sight made him freeze. "Damn," he muttered, his voice filled with awe. "I'm handsome as fuck." His reflection was almost unrecognizable. His light brown skin was flawless, with a radiant glow that made it look almost golden under the bathroom light. His muscles were perfectly streamlined, every inch of his physique carved like a sculpture. Broad shoulders, a defined chest, and a core that looked like it could break steel complemented his powerful arms and legs. His physique resembled that of a manga character, radiating strength and balance in perfect harmony. His hair had grown noticeably longer, the curly locks now hanging loosely around his head, wet and slightly wavy. They gave him a rugged, untamed look, as though he'd just walked off the page of a fantasy illustration. His eyes were a mesmerizing light brown, but what caught his attention most was the faint light blue sparkle flickering in them, a subtle glow from the Nano Machines within. Adam flexed one arm, marveling at the intricate network of veins throbbing under his skin, each pulsing with newfound vitality. His gaze never left the mirror as he asked Awa in his mind, "Awa, why does my physique look like a manga panel of Goku? This is ridiculous." "Based on your memories," Awa responded, "this physique aligns with your ideal form and personal preferences. I optimized it accordingly." Adam couldn't help but smile. "You know what? Good call. Nice work." Obviously, he flexed again, feeling a surge of strength flow through his body. His muscles tensed, veins bulging as raw power coursed through him. Yet, he knew raw strength wasn't enough. "Awa, how would I fare against the D-rank hunter from the association?" The D-rank hunter's muscle density and overall strength are still several times greater than yours. In a direct confrontation, the host would be killed easily. However, the host would be able to see and react to the hunter's attacks due to enhanced reflexes and perception. The issue lies in the host's body being too slow to follow through. Adam nodded thoughtfully. "Makes sense. I might be faster mentally, but the body still has its limits." He paused for a moment before asking, "Am I at least qualified to be an E-rank hunter?" The host's physical strength is comparable to an E-rank hunter. However, without mana, the host cannot compete against hunters or defeat magic beasts, even at lower ranks. Adam frowned. "So how do I get mana?" The host must consume a mana-rich resource to allow integration into the body or absorb ambient mana from the surroundings. However, the latter method is not advised, as the mana density in this area is insufficient for meaningful absorption. Adam sighed. running a hand through his wet hair. All right, I'll have to figure something out later. He left the bathroom and returned to the living room, where the aftermath of his knowledge binge lay scattered across the floor. Books were everywhere, the scene a testament to his chaotic efforts the day before. Without hesitation, he began cleaning up, his movements efficient and purposeful. Within minutes, the room was spotless again. Standing amidst the now organized space, Adam cracked his knuckles and smirked. All right, time to figure out my next move. Adam sat in front of his computer, his eyes focused intently on the screen as he typed and clicked through countless websites. He was on a mission to learn everything about printers and materials, both natural and artificial. With his newly augmented cognitive functions, understanding complex chemical compositions and engineering concept was a breeze. As he read, his thoughts buzzed with clarity. This is simple enough, but scan everything anyway and assimilate it into my brain as I go. Understood, host. Scanning in progress. Awa responded. His mind worked in tandem with Awa's processing power, and as the hours ticked by, Adam began to notice something intriguing. Wait a second. These websites are full of errors, he realized. Certain details were inconsistent, methods overcomplicated, and key pieces of information outright missing. Awa's voice confirmed his thoughts. Multiple inconsistencies detected. The host has identified 13% of errors in reviewed material. Optimized methods have been formulated and integrated. Adam smirked. Thought so. With better materials and techniques, I can achieve more efficient results. Looks like the web isn't perfect after all. For hours, he dove deeper into the subject, absorbing everything he could about 3D printing and material science. By the time he leaned back in his chair, his understanding of printers, materials, and their intricate processes had surpassed even what some professionals might know. With newfound confidence, Adam searched for the fastest online delivery services and began ordering everything he needed to build a high-performance printer. Resin, filaments, specialized nozzles, motors, and electronic components all filled his virtual cart. His finger hesitated over the checkout button as he glanced at the total cost. There goes all my money, he thought with a sigh, but he pressed the button anyway. The screen flashed a confirmation message, and Adam leaned back, exhaling. All right, I've got what I need. Now I just have to wait for it to arrive. But I'm broke now. His thoughts shifted, and a new plan began forming. I need to make money, and fast. Adam's fingers moved to the keyboard again, this time searching for programming tutorials. He'd always been fascinated by coding, but never had the time or focus to learn it. Now, with his enhanced mind, he was ready to master it. Hours passed as Adam immersed himself in programming languages. He started with Python, quickly grasping its syntax and logic, before moving on to more complex languages like JavaScript, C++, and even machine learning frameworks. Awa seamlessly integrated everything he learned, enhancing his efficiency and retention. By the time he finished, the clock had struck midnight. Adam leaned back, stretching his arms. That should do it. I could probably create an app or even work freelance with this knowledge. It was only then that he realized he hadn't eaten all day. Oddly enough, he didn't feel hungry. He glanced at his hands, flexing his fingers as he thought. Awa, any reason I'm not starving right now? The Nano Machines are efficiently converting stored energy reserves into usable fuel. The host's physical state is optimized to prioritize productivity. Adam frowned slightly. So, basically, I'm running on internal reserves? Good to know, but I'm not about to skip meals forever. He stood and stretched. Let's get out to eat. Grabbing his wallet, Adam headed for the door, his mind already buzzing with ideas for his next steps. Chapter 8. E-Rank Dungeon. Adam walked leisurely through the bustling streets of Alessandria, his hands tucked into his pockets. The warm glow of streetlights illuminated the path as he navigated toward a food stall he'd spotted before. The tantalizing aroma of grilled meat hit him before he even reached the counter. One kebab, with everything, he said, flashing a polite smile. The vendor nodded and quickly assembled the order, wrapping it tightly before handing it to Adam. Taking the first bite, Adam closed his eyes briefly, savoring the mix of flavors. The spiced meat, fresh vegetables, and creamy sauces were perfect. As he wandered through the city, circling the streets while enjoying his food, he admired how different Alessandria looked compared to his previous life. The old-world charm of Italy was still there, but the presence of hunters and monsters had left its mark. The technology had advanced to support hunter society, with holographic displays, mana-powered vehicles, and fortified structures designed to withstand attacks. The atmosphere was vibrant, a mix of the ordinary and extraordinary coexisting. Yet it all felt surreal to Adam, a constant reminder that this was no longer the world he once knew. As he turned a corner, something caught his eye. A small crowd had gathered near a secured area, where workers from the Hunter Association were busy setting up barriers. Beyond them, Adam spotted hunters clad in armor, armed with various weapons, discussing among themselves. Curious, Adam approached the crowd, finishing the last bite of his kebab. He tapped a man standing nearby and asked, "What's going on?" The man glanced at Adam, his excitement evident. "It's a dungeon raid. The Flower Guild is taking care of it. They're led by a squad captain, a D-rank hunter. The rest of the team is E-rank." Adam nodded. "What rank is the dungeon?" "E-rank," the man replied, turning back to watch the scene. "Thanks," Adam said before returning his attention to the hunters. The hunters had finished gearing up, adjusting their armor, and checking their weapons. The squad captain, a muscular woman wielding a large sword, barked out final instructions. The rest of the team carried an assortment of weapons, spears, axes, and bows. As they moved toward the portal, the crowd erupted into cheers and applause, admiring the hunters who risked their lives to protect them. Adam couldn't help but smile, imagining himself in their position someday. One day, that'll be me, he thought, turning to head back home. But then he stopped. The blue glow of the portal caught his eye, mesmerizing and inviting. He hesitated, the thought of stepping into the unknown pulling at him. Should I? It's illegal, and I'm not even a hunter yet, but before he realized it, his body moved on its own, his instincts driving him forward. Silently, he blended into the crowd, maneuvering around the perimeter unnoticed. He ducked behind a barrier and slipped past the Hunter Association workers who were busy monitoring the area. He entered a supply tent nearby, scanning the equipment scattered inside. His eyes landed on a hammer, its surface dull but solid. He picked it up, feeling its weight. It was heavier than he expected, but manageable with his enhanced strength. Traces of mana detected in the weapon. Owen noted, "This hammer can be classified as an E-rank weapon." Adam grinned. Perfect. Without wasting another second, he bolted toward the portal. The hum of mana filled the air as he approached the glowing rift, his heart pounding in his chest. Here we go, he thought, adrenaline surging through him. And with that, Adam rushed into the portal, disappearing into the dungeon's mysterious depths. Adam's vision returned as he stepped through the portal, finding himself in a narrow cave. The walls were jagged, the air damp, and the faint smell of decay lingered around him. He squinted, immediately adjusting to the dim light provided by glowing fungi scattered along the cave walls. He noticed footprints on the ground, the clumsy and untrained kind that clearly belonged to the hunters. The trails were obvious, and he smirked, silently following them. Awa automatically adjusted his gait, ensuring his steps left no traces or sound. As he moved deeper, the faint echoes of fighting grew louder. Steel clashed, grunts filled the air, and guttural shrieks followed soon after. Adam slowed his pace, crouching behind a rock as he neared the action. A scan of hunter combat patterns is underway. Awa informed him, collecting data on muscle density, mana application, and tactical coordination. Adam peeked over the rock, spotting the source of the commotion. The hunters were engaged in combat against small, grotesque creatures. Their green skin glistened under the faint light, their childlike physiques and glowing red eyes making them unsettling to look at. Adam chuckled internally. Goblins. How classic. Data on goblins. Goblins are a race of grotesque, dwarf-like magic beasts, stereotypically depicted in fantasy-themed media. They possess childlike physiques, green skin, sharp ears and teeth, and glowing red eyes. Goblins are notoriously weak, with even E-rank hunters capable of killing them with little trouble. However, they rely on strength in numbers and often attempt sneak attacks on their targets. Higher-ranking hunters consider them a nuisance. Adam nodded to himself, watching the scene unfold. The hunters, though armed, were struggling to hold their ground. Goblins swarmed them from multiple angles, their crude weapons slashing at the hunters' defenses. The hunters shouted to each other, their squad captain trying to rally them, but it was clear they were getting overwhelmed. Adam observed quietly, calculating. They're outnumbered. If this keeps up, someone's getting injured or worse. Allah, what do you need to awaken me? What mana ingredient will work? The grade of the mana consumed determines the host's initial rank upon awakening. Higher grade mana will result in a stronger starting rank. Adam grinned. And if I start low, can I improve later with better resources? Obviously, Our replied dryly. Adam's eyes lit up with determination. Good. One thing first. Awa, change my face. Make it unrecognizable. Also change my voice. Understood. Adam felt a subtle shift in his facial muscles and vocal cords. It was painless, quick, and seamless. He smirked slightly, his confidence rising. Let's do this. With his steps completely silent, Adam dashed forward, maneuvering through the chaos with precision. The hunters were too focused on the goblins to notice him. His speed and control were impeccable as he weaved through the battlefield, his eyes locked on a cluster of goblins near the center. With a powerful leap, he raised the hammer high above his head, channeling his momentum into a devastating downward swing. The hammer crashed into 3 goblins at once, their bodies crumpling instantly under the sheer force of the blow. The battlefield fell silent for a brief moment. The hunters turned, their eyes wide with shock as they stared at the figure who had just intervened. "Who the hell is that?" one hunter shouted, pulling back to regroup with the others. "Stay alert. It might be a rogue hunter," barked the squad captain, raising her sword defensively. Adam ignored their words, a grin spreading across his face as he swung the hammer again, this time obliterating another 2 goblins with a single strike. The creatures shrieked, some scrambling to retreat, while others charged at him in desperation. "This is easier than I thought," Adam mused, his movements fluid and precise. He dodged the goblins' crude attacks effortlessly, his enhanced reflexes and control turning the battle into a game. Each swing of his hammer sent goblins flying, their numbers dwindling rapidly under his relentless assault. The hunters watched in stunned silence, their formation tightening as they observed the mysterious figure demolishing the enemy with ease. Though wary, they couldn't deny the overwhelming skill on display. Adam, on the other hand, was having the time of his life. Chapter 9. A Healer? I revised the chapter as I wrote wrongly the rank. Also, I forgot to say that this is the bonus chapter for stones. Through the story, I will make Awa explain some info. It's more for the readers that don't know, so they don't need to go to the wiki and search for themselves. Adam stood amidst the wreckage of the small horde of goblins he had just decimated, the hammer resting on his shoulder. His breathing was steady, his body calm, and there wasn't even a hint of fatigue. He smirked. "Awa, this is incredible. My body feels so optimized. No tiredness, no strain, though I'm feeling hungry. The Nano Machines are maintaining your energy levels efficiently, host." Awa responded. "However, it is advised to eat soon. Restoring your reserves will ensure you don't feel drained later." Adam nodded. "Noted. Once I'm done here." His attention shifted to the group of hunters nearby who had formed a loose huddle and were whispering amongst themselves. Adam narrowed his eyes. "Awa, can you adjust my hearing range? Let me eavesdrop." Adjusting audio frequency. Done. Suddenly, their voices became crystal clear in his ears. "Should we attack him?" One of the hunters asked nervously, his gaze darting to Adam. The muscular woman with the large sword, clearly the squad captain, shook her head firmly. "Think for a second," she said. "Did you hear him coming?" The hunter hesitated. No. Could you have killed those goblins that efficiently? She asked, her tone sharp but not unkind. Another hunter interjected, shaking his head. Not a chance. He didn't just kill them, he obliterated them. Exactly, the captain said, crossing her arms. So why would we provoke someone like that? For all we know, he could be a high ranker playing around. It's not worth the risk. The others nodded at her logic, their expressions shifting from nervousness to cautious acceptance as they glanced at Adam. Adam raised a brow. Huh, she's smarter than I expected. Didn't think a squad captain in a low-rank raid would have that level of insight. Deciding to ignore them for now, he turned his focus to the smashed corpses of the goblins. Drawing on his knowledge of anatomy from the books he had read, Adam crouched and began slicing into the chest cavities of the creatures with surgical precision. Inside each goblin, near its heart, he found a glowing light blue stone. He plucked it out, holding it up to examine the faint glow. Essence stones, Awa explained, her tone factual. These small, glowing stones are found inside the corpses of magic beasts. They serve as the primary source of income for hunters and are generally very valuable. The value of an essence stone depends on its rank and quality. E-rank essence stones, like these, sell for very little due to their low quality and abundance. In contrast, higher-rank stones, such as S-rank, which are purple, can sell for millions. Adam pocketed a few stones before asking, Awa, is the mana in these stones enough to awaken me? No, host, Awa replied. If you desire the most optimal transition to E-rank, these stones are insufficient. However, the boss's essence stone alone should suffice. Adam hummed in thought, glancing at the rest of the goblin corpses. Then, these are just extras for now. He stood and addressed the hunters. You can have the rest of the essence stones. I've taken what I need. The hunters exchanged uncertain looks before one cautiously nodded. Adam smiled slightly. They didn't attack, so I might as well leave them something. Call a thank you for not being hostile. As he turned, Adam's eyes landed on a cluster of glowing blue crystals embedded in the cave wall. He recognized them instantly. Mana crystals. Awa explained again. These blue-colored magical minerals are found inside dungeons. Though less valuable than essence stones due to their lower mana content, they can still sell at high prices and serve as a secondary source of income for hunters. Since electricity doesn't function in dungeons, hunters must extract them manually using pickaxes. Guilds typically assign teams of low-ranking hunters to mine crystals, often spending hours to clear a deposit. Adam glanced at the hammer in his hand. Can I use this to mine them? Not advised, host. Awa said immediately. The hammer would damage the crystals, reducing their value and mana output. Additionally, while I can directly absorb the mana, it would only serve as fuel. Given that mana is present both inside and outside the dungeon, mining the crystals for profit is more advantageous. Adam nodded thoughtfully. Fair enough. I'll leave them for now. Today's just about testing my abilities. Turning away from the crystals, Adam adjusted his grip on the hammer and began heading deeper into the dungeon. The faint glow of mana crystals illuminated his path as he walked. Adam explored the dungeon calmly for the next 2 hours, his footsteps echoing faintly in the narrow tunnels. Every so often, he encountered small groups of goblins, but they posed no challenge. Each swing of his hammer was precise, efficient, and devastating, reducing the creatures to lifeless heaps within moments. Eventually, the tunnel he was following widened and merged into a larger, well-lit passageway. Peering down, Adam spotted the hunters from earlier engaged in battle against another wave of goblins. From his elevated vantage point, he could see that one of the hunters had lost an arm. The injured man was being dragged back by an ally, while another hastily bandaged the bleeding stump. Adam frowned, a pang of pity stirring in him. Without hesitation, he descended toward the group. As he approached, the hunters tensed, their eyes widening at the sight of him. Need a hand? Adam called out casually, his voice calm. Without waiting for an answer, he joined the fight, swinging his hammer and smashing through the goblins with precision. The hunters rallied with his help, and within moments, the goblins were wiped out. Once the fighting ceased, Adam crouched beside the injured hunter. Blood still poured from the stump despite the crude bandaging. He placed a hand near the wound and thought, Awa, can you use the Nano Machines to stop the bleeding? Affirmative, host. Awa responded. A faint glow emanated from Adam's hand as the Nano Machines went to work, stabilizing the man's injury and clotting the blood. Within seconds, the bleeding had stopped completely. The other hunters stared in awe. Are you a healer? One of them asked, his voice filled with amazement. Another hunter squinted at Adam, then at the hammer he carried. Wait a second. Why is a healer using a hammer? That's not normal. The sharp-eyed hunter stepped closer, his gaze narrowing. Hey, isn't that our hammer? Adam smiled faintly, his voice laced with calm amusement. Yeah, I borrowed it. Running back kilometers to grab gear for a low-level dungeon seemed like too much effort. The lie worked like a charm. The hunters exchanged glances, their suspicions morphing into understanding. The squad captain gave Adam a long look, clearly deep in thought. Thank you, the injured man said, his voice shaky but grateful. You saved my life. Adam shrugged. It's nothing. He straightened, turning to the squad captain. How do you plan to handle the boss? The captain gestured toward a massive set of reinforced doors behind them. We'll call on the miners first to clear out the crystals. Once that's done, we'll open the boss room doors and engage. Adam nodded thoughtfully, his mind already spinning with possibilities. Awa, scan the mana behind those doors. How strong is the boss? And can she take it on? Scanning. Awa's voice returned after a moment. The boss is a D-rank magic beast. Additionally, multiple high E-rank entities are inside the room. This group has no chance of victory. Their combined strength is insufficient for success. Adam's brows furrowed. And me? Do I have a shot? Negative, host. Awa replied. Your physical capabilities, while impressive, are weaker than the squad captain's. Without mana, you cannot overcome the stronger creatures, and your weapon, classified as E-rank with minimal mana, is inadequate for the boss. Adam sighed, leaning against the wall as he mulled over the situation. His mind flicked through everything he had read about dungeon mechanics, combat techniques, and materials. Then his gaze shifted to the crystals embedded in the walls and the essence stones he had collected. A slow smile spread across his face. I've got an idea, he thought with his smile widening. Chapter 10, Mana Bombs. Adam crossed his arms, his expression calm but firm. You stand no chance against that boss, he said, his voice steady. I just felt its mana. The squad captain frowned, her grip tightening on her sword. And what would you suggest then? Adam tilted his head, studying her carefully. Before I answer, I'm curious. Why are you so calm? You don't even know who I am. For all you know, I could be someone dangerous. The woman shrugged, her expression neutral, but her voice resolute. If you wanted us dead, you would have done it long ago. You're stronger than us, that much is clear. But instead of attacking, you helped us. I don't see a reason to fight someone who could kill us all without breaking a sweat. She glanced at the injured hunter, her tone softening. I just want to finish here, get my share of the money, and go home to my husband and daughter. Adam paused, considering her words. Slowly, he extended his hand. Luca, he said with a small smile, offering the fake name he had chosen. She hesitated for only a moment before shaking his hand firmly. Angela, she replied. All right, Angela, Adam said, his tone shifting to something more businesslike. Here's what we're going to do. I need you to bring me some specific materials and tools. Angela raised an eyebrow, suspicion creeping into her expression. You realize electricity and modern equipment don't work in dungeons, right? Adam chuckled, shaking his head. Relax. These tools don't rely on electricity. They work with good, old manual force. Trust me. Angela exchanged glances with her team before nodding reluctantly. Fine, but if you're wasting our time, you'll see, Adam said confidently. The hunters exited the dungeon shortly after, contacting the Hunter Association to call in the mining team. Adam, meanwhile, used the association's speed delivery system to order the materials and tools he needed. True to its reputation, the association's delivery service was as fast as advertised. Within an hour, a courier arrived at the dungeon entrance with the items Adam had requested. The miners, equipped with their pickaxes and gear, arrived around the same time, ready to clear out the mana crystals. Back inside the dungeon, Angela crossed her arms as she watched Adam inspect the materials. "All right, Luca," she said, her tone skeptical. "You've got what you wanted. Now what?" Adam stretched, glancing at the tools and materials laid out before him. "Let's create." He crouched near the pile of materials, his fingers deftly separating and arranging them into neat sections. Mana crystals shimmered faintly in the dim light of the cave, their raw power just waiting to be tapped. Monster bones lay in another pile, their sturdy structure a perfect material for reinforcement. Finally, the light blue essence stones were carefully placed aside, glowing faintly as if alive. The hunters stood off to the side, watching with a mix of confusion and skepticism. "What the hell is he doing?" one of the hunters muttered under his breath. "I have no idea," another replied. "But he looks like he knows what he's doing." Angela remained silent, her eyes fixed on Adam as he worked. She didn't interrupt, but the slight furrow in her brow betrayed her curiosity. Adam's mind worked at lightning speed as he recalled every piece of knowledge he had absorbed from books on chemistry, physics, and mana applications. "Let's make something they've never seen before," he thought with a focused gaze. He began by carving the monster bones into hollow tubes and small casings using a knife. The bones were tough but lightweight, making them an ideal container. Next, he carefully ground down some of the mana crystals into sharp shards, which would act as high-velocity projectiles when the bomb detonated. The essence stones were the core of the device. Adam hollowed out a small chamber in each bone casing and embedded an essence stone inside, ensuring that it was secure but exposed enough to release its energy. The mana crystal shards were then packed around the essence stone, forming a dense cluster of explosive potential. Finally, he used strips of monster hide to seal the casing, creating a pressurized environment. The hide's natural resistance to magic helped contain the explosion just long enough to amplify its force. The ignition mechanism was simple yet effective, a trigger made from tightly coiled monster sinew and powdered mana crystal. When activated, the sinew would snap, creating a spark that would ignite the mana within the essence stone. Each bomb was about the size of a large fist, compact and deadly. Angela crossed her arms, her patience wearing thin. "Are you going to explain what you're doing, Luca? Or are we supposed to just watch you play with bones and rocks?" Adam didn't look up, his hands moving with precision. "Trade secret," he said calmly. "Let's just say you're about to witness something groundbreaking." The hunters exchanged puzzled looks, but none of them pressed further. As Adam worked, Awe's voice chimed at his mind. "The design is highly efficient, host. The combination of essence stones and mana crystal shards will create a powerful explosion with lethal shrapnel. Additionally, the bone casings provide structural integrity, ensuring the energy is directed outward." "Good," Adam thought. "These will be perfect for taking down the boss and its minions." The hunters watched in silence as Adam crafted bomb after bomb. Though they didn't understand his methods, they couldn't deny his focus and expertise. "Is he really making explosives?" one hunter whispered. "Looks like it," another replied, frowning. "But why use essence stones? That's just wasting money." Angela shot them a look, silencing their chatter. After nearly 2 hours of meticulous work, Adam stood and dusted off his hands. In front of him were 6 neatly crafted bombs, each one glowing faintly from the essence stone embedded within. He turned to Angela. "All right, we're ready to take on the boss." Angela raised an eyebrow. "And those things you made are going to help?" Adam nodded. "More than you know." He didn't explain further. Adam had no intention of sharing the specifics of his invention. These bombs were a potential game changer, something that could revolutionize combat in dungeons. If he played his cards right, he could sell this technology for a fortune in the future. But for now, he had a boss to kill. "Let's move," Adam said, lifting the bombs and securing them in his bag. His gaze shifted to the massive doors of the boss room, with his eyes narrowing. "Time to make some noise." The massive doors groaned as they swung open, revealing a large, dimly lit chamber. The air inside was thick with tension and the faint metallic scent of mana. At the center of the room stood an imposing figure, an adult male-sized goblin, its body bound with jagged chains that clinked softly as it shifted. Around it were several slightly smaller goblins, each armed with crude but dangerous-looking weapons. The hunters tensed, their expressions hardening at the sight of the monsters. Angela's grip on her sword tightened, her jaw set with determination. Adam, standing behind them, calmly adjusted his grip on the hammer he carried. His eyes analyzed the goblins' movements and weapons, his mind already calculating their strengths and weaknesses. He spoke, his tone measured. "I'll handle the support. I've been meaning to test this invention of mine, so I'll lower my strength for this fight." Angela turned to him, frowning. "Lower your strength? What do you mean by that? There are lives on the line here." Before she could finish her sentence, a goblin wielding a heavy mace darted forward with surprising speed, its weapon swinging directly at her exposed temple. Angela, having lowered her guard mid-argument, couldn't react in time. Adam moved without hesitation. With a swift kick, he struck the goblin's mace mid-swing, redirecting its trajectory just centimeters away from Angela's head. The goblin staggered, thrown off balance, giving Angela the opening she needed. With a sharp, practiced motion, she swung her large sword, cleaving the goblin in two. Blood sprayed across the chamber floor as the creature collapsed. Angela glanced at Adam, her eyes wide with a mix of gratitude and surprise. "That was close," she muttered before composing herself. Adam's tone remained calm and firm. "I'll support you like this. Or do you want to be spoon-fed?" Angela paused, studying him for a moment. Finally, she nodded, her expression softening. "Understood, and thank you for that." Adam gave a curt nod and stepped back, his hammer at the ready. The remaining goblins snarled, their glowing red eyes locking onto the group. The hunters tightened their formation, weapons raised as they prepared for the battle ahead. Adam's thoughts, however, were already on the bombs secured in his bag. Let's see how effective these are. Chapter 11. Mana Bombs. The goblins snarled as they rushed forward, their crude weapons gleaming in the dim, mana-lit chamber. Angela's voice rang out, commanding and sharp. Her massive sword flashed as she cut down the first goblin that dared get too close, her team tightening their formation around her. I hung back, letting the hunters handle the initial wave. My hammer rested against my shoulder, my focus on the bag of bombs at my side. The real threat hadn't moved yet. The boss stood still, its glowing red eyes scanning the battlefield, chains coiling and uncoiling around it like living things. It's waiting. How smart? That makes it dangerous. Host's observation is accurate. Away's calm, steady voice echoed in my mind. The boss is preparing for coordinated attacks. Recommend eliminating the minions to minimize interference. On it, I murmured, pulling a bomb from my bag. The bone casing felt cold in my hand, the faint hum of mana vibrating against my skin. Scanning the battlefield, I saw a cluster of goblins converging on the hunter's left flank. Angela and her team were too preoccupied with the frontal assault to notice. Perfect target. I adjusted my stance. Awa, confirm trajectory. I want maximum damage, no collateral. Trajectory confirmed. Release in 3 seconds. I counted down, steadying my breathing. When a moment came, I hurled the bomb in a perfect arc. It detonated among the goblins, the blue flash lighting the chamber as mana shards tore through them. Screeches filled the air, their bodies collapsing. Focus. Angela's voice cut through the aftermath. Let him do his job. She was sharp. I like that. I pulled another bomb, this time relying on my instincts rather than waiting for Away's analysis. The explosion scattered another group of goblins, giving the hunters an opening to push forward. But then the boss moved. Its roar shook the chamber, and the chains lashed out, cracking against the stone floor with enough force to send fragments flying. Warning, the boss's mana output has increased by 20%. Host's reflexes must adjust accordingly. Noted. The chains whipped toward me, and I dodged, narrowly avoiding the strike. One came for my legs. I jumped and spun away, keeping my grip on the next bomb. Angela, keep it busy, I shouted. The boss's roar rattled my bones, its malice palpable. I tightened my grip on my sword, signaling my team to stay focused. Its chains lashed unpredictably, a deadly blur of jagged metal and mana. Circle it. Don't give it a clear target, I shouted, but my eyes kept drifting to Luca, or whoever he was. He stood calm, deliberate, infuriatingly confident, his hammer resting against his shoulder. Angela, keep it busy. I'll handle the rest, he said over his shoulder. What does that even mean? I snapped, frustration bubbling over. But before I could press him, the boss lunged. A chain whipped toward me, and I barely managed to block it, the force jarring my arms. Angela, move, a hunter yelled, stepping in with his shield to deflect another strike. It sent him skidding back, but it bought me time to recover. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Luca pull out a bomb. The explosion lit the chamber, severing one of the boss's chains. My team pressed forward, striking at the exposed sides. My blade bit into its flesh, but it didn't flinch. Its attention was locked on Luca. Angela, pull back, he called. It's coming for me now. He moved like no human I'd ever seen, dodging each chain strike with inhuman precision. Is he even human? One of my hunters murmured. Eyes on a fight. I snapped, slashing at the boss again. But it wasn't enough. With a growl, the boss spun, its chains sweeping us off our feet. Damn it, we can't hold it much longer, I shouted, struggling to stand. You won't have to. Luca's calm voice cut through the chaos. He hurled another bomb, the explosion ripping into the boss's chest. Black blood sprayed, and its remaining chain flailed wildly. Angela, hold it down for a few more seconds, Luca called, pulling out 3 bombs. Everyone distracted. I yelled, charging forward. My team struck from all sides, forcing the boss to defend itself. Luca darted through the chaos, moving faster than my eyes could track. Then I saw it. He threw all the remaining bombs directly into the boss's gaping maw. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. Then, boom! The explosion tore through the chamber, a shockwave throwing me against the wall. Pain radiated through me as the air was knocked from my lungs. I barely registered my hunter's cries as we were scattered like leaves. My vision blurred. I pushed myself up, but my body refused to cooperate. Through the haze, I saw the boss's crumpled form, its body mangled and lifeless. And then, everything went black. Boom! The shockwave hit like a tidal wave, a wall of force that threatened to crush everything in its path. But I planned for this. Awa, recalculate trajectory. Done. Adjusting trajectory by 3 degrees. Throw the hammer now. I hurled the hammer with all the strength I could muster, timing the throw perfectly. It flew straight into the path of the blast, hitting the ground at the calculated angle. The impact diverted just enough of the explosion's force to stop it from tearing me apart. Still, the shockwave sent me flying like a rag doll. Bam! My back slammed into the stone wall, the air leaving my lungs in a painful rush. I gritted my teeth, twisting my body mid-air to land in a way that spread the impact across my arms and legs. The pain was sharp but bearable. It could have been worse. I slid down the wall, coughing violently. My ribs protested with every breath as I pressed specific points on my chest and abdomen, forcing the blood and impurities out of my lungs. A thick spray of blackened saliva hit the ground, carrying with it the dust and debris I'd inhaled. Internal injuries are minimal. Nano Machines are healing you now. I nodded, wiping my mouth. My body was already starting to feel better, the pain receding as AWA's diagnostics reassured me. The faint hum of the Nano Machines at work was almost comforting. Good job, Awa, I muttered, pushing myself to my feet. Always host. The air in the chamber was thick with smoke and the acrid stench of burnt flesh. As the dust began to settle, I moved forward, stepping over the shattered remains of stone and goblin alike. My eyes scanned the room, landing on the crumpled body of the goblin boss. Its chest was blown wide open, black blood pooling around it in a grotesque halo. I glanced at the hunters scattered across the room. They were all unconscious, their bodies sprawled across the rubble. Bruised, battered, but alive. For a moment, I felt a twinge of guilt. They had no idea they were pawns in this plan, distractions to keep the boss occupied while I dealt the final blow. They didn't deserve to get caught in the blast like that. I thought, sighing. I crouched beside Angela, checking her pulse. Strong. She'd live. The others were in similar condition, their breathing steady despite their injuries. Guess I owe them something for this. I murmured, turning back to the boss's corpse. The dull gleam of an essence stone caught my eye. Nestled in the mangled remains of the goblin's chest was a large, pristine white stone, glowing faintly with mana. The D-rank essence stone has been located. Awa confirmed, her voice as steady as ever. Analysis in progress. I reached into the gore, pulling the stone free. It was warm to the touch, the energy within pulsing gently against my skin. I held it up, watching as Awa's scans illuminated the surface with faint blue lines. This essence stone contains sufficient mana for you to awaken successfully. If consumed, the host will achieve the optimal qualities for a peak E-rank hunter. Peak E-rank? I asked, frowning slightly. Why not D-rank? This is a D-rank stone, isn't it? Correct. Awa replied. While it's possible to achieve a D-rank awakening with this stone, I do not recommend it. The quality of this essence stone, while high, is not sufficient to ensure the most stable or efficient integration at a D-rank level. Using this stone for an E-rank awakening will result in the maximum potential for that rank, providing a more solid foundation for future growth. I tilted my head, considering her words. And if I want to awaken at D-rank, you will need a better quality stone. An essence stone from a higher tier D-rank or low tier C-rank magic beast would be ideal for that purpose. I hummed thoughtfully, turning the stone over in my hand. The pulsing light within it seemed to call out to me, tempting me to take the leap. But Awa's logic was sound. Starting at peak E-rank would give me a solid footing, and if I play my cards right, I could find a stronger stone soon enough. All right, I said finally, slipping the stone into my bag. Let's save this for later. No need to rush things. Wise choice, host. Chapter 12, Reawakening. I turned my gaze back to the hunters, sprawled unconscious across the battered chamber. Their breaths were steady, and the worst of their injuries were superficial, but the fight had pushed them to their limits. I walked towards them. Angela lay closest to me, her large sword resting loosely in her limp hand. Her face, though dirted with soot and blood, still bore the lines of determination that had carried her this far. Awa, I thought, kneeling beside her. Can you do anything for them? Something to help them recover faster. Analyzing, Awa's voice filled my mind as a soft blue glow emanated from my hand, scanning over Angela's body. Yes, host. While their injuries are minor, I can smooth their mana flow. This will not only accelerate recovery, but could also improve their overall strength. This process is known as reawakening. Reawakening, I said, raising an eyebrow. Reawakening refers to a phenomenon where hunters undergo a second awakening, receiving a significant boost in strength and bypassing their previous natural limits. The results can be drastic. There are documented cases of E ranks rising to C rank or higher and B ranks ascending to S rank. However, it's a rare and often uncontrollable event, typically tied to extreme circumstances or interventions by external forces. I glanced at Angela, my hand still hovering above her forehead. You're saying you can just reawaken them that easily? Not exactly, host. Awa clarified. I'm not granting them a new awakening. I am merely clearing and smoothing the pathways through which their mana flows. This enhances their connection to the source of their powers, allowing their potential to fully manifest. I frowned, my thoughts racing. The source of their powers? You mean the rulers, right? Correct. The answer sent a chill down my spine, though I kept my expression neutral. The same rulers who created this system of hunters, dungeons, and monsters to begin with. Yes, host. Awa's tone was matter of fact. The hunter's abilities are granted by the rulers, who serve as intermediaries for the mana that powers them. By clearing these pathways, I merely remove inefficiencies in the hunter's connection to the rulers and their mana distribution. I took a moment to process that. My fingers brushed Angela's forehead lightly as I mulled it over. And you can't do the same for me, I'm guessing. Correct, host. Our replied. When your soul and body merged with the Nano Machines, you became an independent existence. The rulers have no authority over you, nor can they detect you, unless they personally descend to Earth to seek you out. The implications of that hit me hard. I wasn't just outside the system. I was invisible to the ones who controlled it, free from their rules, but also cut off from their power. So what does that mean for me? I asked. If the rulers can't influence me, does that mean I can practice techniques outside their system? Like martial arts and manhuas, for example. Affirmative. Awa confirmed. But I cannot create something from nothing. If you wish to cultivate or enhance yourself through martial techniques, you will need realistic frameworks and practices to base them on. I nodded slowly. Makes sense. I had a vague idea about that, but I didn't expect the Nano Machines to be this powerful. Obviously, Awa said, a faint trace of simulated sarcasm in her tone. They were created by a higher being, a true creator, not those fakes calling themselves the rulers. I chuckled softly, shaking my head. You're not afraid to throw shade, are you? Stating facts, host. You're pretty expressive for a machine, I thought, smirking as I kept my hand hovering over Angela's head. Incorrect. Awa's voice came through, calm, yet laced with a hint of amusement that seemed almost human. I do not have consciousness. I am merely an advanced system, emulating emotions for a more dynamic interaction with you. Without it, you would find conversations with me dull and unengaging. I chuckled softly, shaking my head. Yeah, I know, you already said it. Just like my body design, you took my preferences into account. Affirmative. Her blunt response made me grin. Awa might be a machine, but she knew how to keep things interesting. All right, then, I said, standing and glancing around the room. The hunters were still sprawled across the floor, unconscious but alive. Let's reawaken them. Stronger hunters mean more money for them. And for me, that's more potential customers when I start selling my future products. Understood. A faint blue glow emanated from my body as Awa activated, her energy washing over the unconscious hunters like a gentle wave. I watched as the light traced their forms, faintly illuminating their veins, muscles, and mana pathways. Beginning the process, smoothing mana pathways to optimize their connection to the source of their abilities. Angela's body responded first. Her breathing quickened for a moment before slowing again, her muscles twitching slightly as the glow intensified around her. The transformation was subtle at first. Her broad, muscular build began to shift, her frame becoming leaner and more defined. She still looked strong, but now there was a sharpness to her that hadn't been there before. Angela has ascended to B rank. Awa reported. Her physical structure has been optimized for efficiency, reducing unnecessary bulk while retaining strength and agility. Her mana reserves have increased substantially, and her pathways are now far more efficient. I whistled low. B rank, huh? She'll be a powerhouse when she wakes up. The glow continued to spread across the other hunters, their bodies reacting in varying degrees. Most of them underwent noticeable changes, broader shoulders, enhanced muscle density, or improved posture. It was clear they had all grown stronger, but as I watched, one in particular caught my eye. Of the remaining hunters, one has ascended to A rank. I blinked, stunned. Wait, what? A rank? Who? Awa highlighted the figure with an AR arrow in my vision. I followed it, my gaze landing on a young man lying near the chamber's edge. Recognition hit me instantly. The guy with the missing arm. I walked over to him, my steps echoing softly in the now quiet chamber. I crouched beside the young man who lay at the edge of the chamber. His right arm, the only one he had left, was clenched tightly against his side, though his body radiated a new sense of strength that wasn't there before. Even unconscious, he put pressure on me. His face was sharper now, with an angular jawline and taut features that gave him an aura of authority. His frame had filled out, not bulky but solid, like a weapon honed for battle. Despite the absence of his left arm, his remaining limb exuded power, its veins faintly glowing as though the mana within was surging uncontrollably. /in. Imagine Shank since I literally took the idea from that design. I leaned closer, my eyes narrowing as I studied him. Ella, I called. You said one of them reached A rank. Is it him? Correct. Awa's voice confirmed, her tone steady. His transformation is unique among the group. Despite his physical disadvantage, his mana pathways have adapted to compensate, concentrating his power into his remaining arm and core. This resulted in an exponential increase in his strength, elevating him directly to what I think is the A rank. I tilted my head, intrigued. So losing the arm didn't hold you back. If anything, it forced your body to evolve beyond its limits. Precisely. The phenomenon is rare, but not unprecedented. I rose slowly, staring down at the man. His breathing was even, his expression serene. Stop faking sleep, I said flatly, my voice cutting through the silence.